With all that leadership requires, have you paused long enough to ask yourself why you want to be one? If your reasons start with money, status, or title, you may be in for a rude awakening, and frustration might greet you long before you reach success. Let's get into it. Welcome to Crossroads and Catalyst, the podcast with Shanita Brown. I am your host. This is where we discuss how a thoughtful, wise, and strategic perspective at a crossroads can be the catalyst for change in your leadership and career. Well, as the year winds down, I thought that this was the most appropriate time to pause and get honest about what we really want our careers to look like. So you have to ask yourself this question because I think sometimes leadership is romanticized. Look at movies and shows and how glamorous they make it look as if there's no hard work that has to go into it. And we know that that's not true because when you're dealing with naysayers and underminers, that's not really what you want, but that's the reality of it sometimes. And as I've said before, leadership is not for the weak. It is a responsibility, and what it will do is it will stretch you and it will challenge you. And it's ultimately going to shape who you're becoming. So you want to really do some self reflecting on what you want it to look like. So, whether you're stepping into your first leadership role or you have your eyes set on the executive level, ask yourself, why do I want this? Because you need to be solid in your answer. Because really, what it does is it speaks to having a vision for yourself. It might seem odd coming from me because this show exists to encourage and guide you through crossroads and challenges. But again, the truth is, you're going to face more challenges in leadership than what you anticipated. And it's going to demand way more than what you imagined. So that's ultimately why I'm asking, why do you want to be a leader? And think about it. Maybe you've thought that you would already be in the leadership position that you had your eyes on. Or maybe some of you have been recently passed over for a promotion. Well, I can relate. I can relate to both of those because it happened to me. And what that does to you is it causes you to second guess your abilities and your competence. At least that's what it did in my circumstance. And so I had to consider more deeply what it was that I really wanted. Did I really want to be a leader in that capacity? How badly did I want it? And then I had to make a decision to decide, okay, what am I going to do to make it happen and make it look the way that I have in mind? And can I do that? Right? You have to have a plan and a vision for yourself. So, as you're thinking through your goals for the next year, be sure to follow the show so that you can stay grounded in your leadership because I'm going to send you information if you sign up for the newsletter that is going to help you and it's going to help to also hold you accountable because you have to take actions and be thoughtful about those actions to get you in the position to move forward, wherever that is and whatever that looks like for you. I can tell you that I had a recent conversation about this very thing, about leadership and whether or not to stay the course of leadership, how difficult it is to lead people. Um, and one of the ladies in this discussion, she mentioned that she was relieved that her leadership responsibilities have been reduced. Well, why is that? Because people can be draining. That's why. People will suck the life out of you. And sometimes you just have to say it and be raw with it because it's not always going to be peachy. People are going to they're going to call in sick. They're not going to engage with you in the way that you think is appropriate. They're going to be all kinds of situations that arise that you might not have even thought that you would have to deal with at a certain level of leadership. But I can tell you, human nature can be very disappointing sometimes. And people, they don't always leave the problems and the troubles at home. They bring them to work. And one of the ladies told me that the reason why she was looking forward to to having reduced leadership responsibilities is because she actually had an employee tell her that she wouldn't want to hang out with her after work. Well, her response to that was, "Okay, but I'm not here to be your friend." So, I mean, you we can dissect that entire conversation into many different pieces and have a whole show dedicated to each segment of that. Because while we don't want to put our employees off, we also don't want to be seen as the type of leader who cannot collaborate or be congenial or be hospitable. And I'm not saying that this is or this was her circumstance. But when you're in a position where you're constantly trying to herd cats, because that's what we say sometimes, then you're trying to figure out, well, how do I approach the situation? How do I handle this? How is this person going to perceive what I'm telling them? So you're having to consider a lot of different things because you're leading people, and that's just one aspect. That's just the HR aspect of it. You haven't even gotten into the strategy and the operationalizing of your leadership goals and objectives. So, again, this is not to downplay your desire to be a leader. This is to bring to the surface some of the things that you're going to have to deal with as a leader. And I can, even with my own, as I think about my own road to leadership, it kind of just happened. In the first phases of my leadership career, I didn't plan to be a leader. It was a natural fit and progression because of the type of work that I was doing. I was really good at it, and people followed me. It was easy for people to come to me and ask for information or insight or guidance on how to do something. And because I knew the answers and I was easy to get along with, it was a natural fit. And so it was only then that I really began to take seriously, oh wait, I can actually do this leadership thing, and what do I want to do to better myself and to better engage with the people who are actually willing to follow me? What is this going to look like? And I wanted to take it seriously at that point. And so I think that you should want to do the same. So then of course that would be the advantage uh of having some feedback from others around you, because they're going to give it to you whether they do it verbally or non-verbally. People will show you what they think of you and your leadership if you're already in leadership. And if you're not in leadership and your goal is to be a leader, well, all you have to do is look around. Do your colleagues seek your advice? Do they seek your insight? Are they looking to you to provide them information? Are you the one who's doing the training? Do people look up to you? You will be able to assess these things, and all of these are part of your trajectory on where it is that you're going to go. So this is why it's important to consider this now at this time, while things have hopefully slowed down for you in wherever organizations where you are, because of the time of year where we're serving, excuse me, where we are at this point. It matters. So take this time and get some clarity around what it is that you want to do. Because again, if you're going to make any moves or take any actions, you have to have clarity so that you can make an informed decision. We have to ask ourselves some questions. And some of the questions that we want to ask ourselves is, what does it mean to actually be a leader? What characteristics should you be um, should you seek to acquire? Do I fit the description that I have in mind? If not, where do I need to improve? If so, do I still want it? What do I want? Why do I want it? What will it require? All of these questions are things that we have to ask ourselves, and we want to tighten those things up as we close out the year and determine what we want 2026 to look like, because it's right around the corner. And if some major changes haven't already taken place in the workplace where you are, there may very well be some, especially depending upon the industry in which you work. And you want to ask yourself, am I willing and able to give what it requires right now? And does pursuing leadership align with the life that I'm trying to build? Because for some of you, you're gonna go all the way to the top, and for others of you, and this is again based on your decisions, based on how you work right now, based on what it is that you want, some of you are going to make a decision that I want to get to this particular level and I don't want to go above that, because it's going to require something from you. And this is what is important to understand. As you continue to climb, It doesn't necessarily get easier. The type of work that you do is different, but it's going to pull from you in other ways. And so you have to consider your family life. Is there work life balance? We hear this term, and sometimes we hear it in the positive and sometimes we hear it in the negative. You'll hear some people say that you can never have work life balance. You'll have others that are going to say you're going to have to commit 100% and everything else will have to fall to the wayside. And then you have others that will say, well, you should always have work life balance. I can tell you there's no easy answer for that. It's going to require a lot, and sometimes you might not have it to give. So you have to think about that. So I don't want to overlook the difficulties that leadership can bring, but this is why we're asking ourselves the question. And so now that we've recognized that we do need to go through the leadership ideal that we have in our minds and compare that to reality. And even looking at some of the job descriptions that are available to help us determine if this is something that we really want. Well, now you have some choices that you can make. You can continue on the trajectory where you are. And believe me, there is nothing wrong with that. I have been in the position to ask those those of my direct reports, hey, well, why didn't you apply for this particular job, or what is it that held you back? And I have been told directly, I am happy in my current position. I love those responses. I love those responses just as much as I love the responses that say, I want to get to this particular point in my career because I can assist in both of those scenarios. I can help you be the best at where you are right now, and I can help you to progress to somewhere where you want to be if that's what fits and suits you best. But you have to be the one to determine what you want your career to look like. And so these are the choices that you have. And so what I would do is I would suggest that you look at some of the job descriptions, whether it's at your current organization or other organizations. Look at those positions that most closely align with the kind of work that you want to do, the kind of leadership position that you would seek, and assess what does what do my qualifications look like compared to this? And do I really want this? And then ask yourself some specific questions on what you think that would actually look like in reality. And that might mean making some phone calls and or sending emails and asking others who are aware of those types of positions and what they require. Well, what does the day to day look like? And you don't want to start off with the work life balance question. Uh, because again, people are not always going to be direct with you. If it turns out that this job is going to require 60 to 70 hours a week, most are not going to come out at the gate telling you that. They're going to tell you that you're going to have to be really self-motivated and you're going to have to jump in and get your hands dirty, and they might sprinkle in some other language that will help you to assess where it is, but you're going to have to do some digging on some of these. So look at some of the job descriptions. Talk to some of your colleagues and talk to some of the other leadership within your organization to get a really good feel for their take and how they assess what the leadership environment is like. You want to be informed because that's really what it comes down to. And so, how do we use this as a catalyst? Well, again, we just start from scratch. What is it that is motivating us? What is it that drives us to want to be leaders? Again, if it comes down to just making a lot of money or having a level of authority and power, you're probably in it for the wrong reasons. We all need money. We have bills to pay, we have obligations that we have to meet. But because you are going to be in a position where you can directly impact the livelihood of other people, you have to handle that with care. You're going to have to approach that with the appropriate mindset. And yes, there is a mindset that will either taint or enrich your experience. And for those who might be serving under your leadership, you want to bring your best and you want to bring a good mindset to that because people will be able to pick up on your motives and they will be able to assess if you're if you're real or if you're a fraud. And good character is going to help to separate you from some of the others. So, really consider that as you go through this process of trying to determine why it is that you want to lead and what actually drives you. So, that is what I want you to consider for the next week. All right. So we are at the end of our episode, and I appreciate that you have taken the time to sit and listen as we close out this year. We just have a few more episodes left, and I want you to take a minute to go to my website, crossroadsandcatalyst.com. Sign up for the newsletter if you're so inclined, and be sure to send the episode to other colleagues so that we can expand our reach. So until next time, be thoughtful, be wise, be strategic, and remember, crossroads reveal who you are, catalysts shape who you become. Every decision matters, so make it count. I'll talk to you next week.